Now, that last amendment, the 27th, is actually pretty young, just 25 years old this year. And you may be surprised who was behind getting it passed. A teenager in Texas back in 1992. Demetrius Pipkin has his story.
Well, we have a lot to thank you for, I guess, right?
Meet Gregory Watson. Over 30 years ago, he was a student here at UT Austin. Little did he know that a homework assignment would change the course of his life and U.S. history forever.
The assignment was to write a paper about a governmental process.
And so, he hit the library to do some research and came across a book about constitutional amendments.
This one just jumped right out at me, almost physically.
It read, "No law varying the compensation for the services of the senators and representatives shall take effect until an election of representatives shall have intervened."
To me, it was a backdoor way of giving themselves a masqueraded pay raise.
This piece of legislation was originally proposed by American founding father James Madison and was intended to be one of the very first constitutional amendments that would block lawmakers from giving themselves a pay raise while in office. Seems like a no-brainer, right? But it wasn't passed in enough states at the time to ratify it as an amendment. It needed 3/4 of state legislatures to approve it, but no deadline was placed on it, meaning for Gregory, it could still potentially be passed.
I worked very diligently on it. I put a lot of love into that paper and was really disappointed when I turned that paper in and got it back a few days later with a C on it.
I feel like a lot of college students would just say, you know what, forget it, this is not for me, or, you know, I got a bad grade, but what can I do about it? But that wasn't you.
After I got the C, was rebuffed in my efforts to get the grade changed, I basically said, I'm going to get that thing ratified.
And so he started reaching out to lawmakers all over the country in the hopes that one of them would introduce this congressional compensation resolution to their state legislatures. And that was how he got in touch with a lawmaker in Maine.
He introduced the resolution. It passed the Maine Senate, passed the Maine House of Representatives, and Maine became my first success story.
But Gregory quickly realized that getting his amendment ratified, making a change to the Constitution, would be a long and difficult road.
For various reasons, people writing constitutions make it very hard to change.
Zachary Elkins is a government professor at UT Austin.
Constitutions are supposed to be higher law. They're supposed to govern other points of legislation. And so as higher law, they're supposed to be less easily changed. And the U.S. Constitution is no different. The U.S. Constitution actually happens to be much harder to change than other constitutions.
But Gregory was up to the challenge. 10 years and 2 months later, from the time he wrote his paper to the time it took him to get enough states to approve it, his congressional compensation resolution officially became the 27th Amendment of the United States Constitution.
I was able to gain support from both political parties. People from across the spectrum generally agreed that, yes, members of Congress should have to wait until the next election intervenes before they get a pay raise.
But the story doesn't end there. When Zach Elkins heard about what Gregory had accomplished, he came up with the perfect way to celebrate this year's 25th anniversary of the 27th Amendment.
It was the culmination of this, and it's something that I saw as kind of a nice capstone to what he had done.
And so, in a special ceremony 35 years after his paper was originally written, Gregory's assignment was changed from a C to an A, and he says it was worth the wait.
Even after all those years.
Well, but you have to remember the 27th Amendment itself took all those years.
That's true.
So when you look at the 35 years that it took for the grade to be changed, it pales in comparison to the 202 years that the 27th Amendment took to become part of the U.S. Constitution.
Demetrius Pipkin, Channel One News.